I watched a stranger scream at my disabled daughter until she cried. What happened next changed everything in our neighborhood forever. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I'm about to tell you the most unbelievable story of my life. A story about power, cruelty, karma, and a mother's love that knows no boundaries. But before I get to the moment that shattered my world, let me take you back 3 months. It was late April when we moved into Riverside Estates, at one of those pristine gated communities where every lawn looks magazine perfect and every mailbox matches. My husband David and I had been searching for the right home for over a year. Not just any home. We needed something special, something perfect for our daughter, Emma. Emma is 12 years old. She has the most beautiful smile you've ever seen, eyes that sparkle like morning dew, and a laugh that could melt the coldest heart. She also has cerebral palsy, and her wheelchair has been part of our family since she was 3, and we've spent every day since then making sure she experiences every joy this world has to offer. When we found the house at 1247 Riverside Drive, I actually cried. It wasn't just a house, it was a dream. 4 bedrooms, fully accessible, wide doorways, smooth flooring throughout. But the real treasure, the backyard opened directly onto the community pool area. Direct access, no curbs, no stairs. It's just a smooth path from our back gate to the beautiful, sparkling pool that seemed to call Emma's name. You see, water is Emma's freedom. In the pool, she doesn't need her wheelchair. She doesn't feel different. She glides through the water like a dolphin, her face pure joy, her movements graceful and unrestricted. Swimming isn't just recreation for Emma. It's therapy. It's medicine. It's where she feels most alive. The previous owners, an elderly couple named the Hendersons, and had been kind enough to meet with us before closing. Mr. Henderson, a gentle man in his 80s with kind eyes, walked us through every detail of the property. "There's something you should know," he said, his voice carrying a weight I didn't understand then. "This property, including the pool area accessible from your backyard, it's technically part of your lot. When this community was developed 20 years ago, we were the original investors. We donated the pool to the HOA for community use. But retained ownership. It's all in the deed." He showed us the documents, page after page of legal jargon that basically said, we owned the pool. The HOA managed it, but we owned it. The Hendersons had never made an issue of it. They'd let the community use it freely for 2 decades. "Just keep these documents safe," Mr. Henderson advised. "You never know when you might need them." I tucked them away in our important papers file, never imagining how crucial they would become. When the first few weeks in our new home were pure bliss, Emma made friends with other kids in the neighborhood, the Johnsons next door, the Patel family across the street, the Rodriguezes 2 houses down. Everyone was welcoming. Every afternoon, Emma would spend 2 hours in the pool, building strength, making memories, living her best life. Then came that Tuesday, June 14th, a date burned into my memory forever. I was in the kitchen preparing lunch when I heard it. A voice, loud, sharp, and cutting through the peaceful afternoon like a chainsaw through silk. "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing?" I rushed to the back window. What I saw made my blood run cold. A woman stood at the edge of the pool, hands on her hips, her face twisted in fury. She was probably in her late 50s, wearing a white pantsuit that screamed, "I want to speak to your manager." Her blonde hair styled in that aggressive bob cut that somehow perfectly matched her energy. She was pointing at Emma, who floated in the shallow end, her flotation devices keeping her safe, her face suddenly uncertain. I ran faster than I've ever run in my life. "Emma can't be in this pool," the woman was shouting as I burst through our back gate. "This is a community pool, and we have rules. Where is your mother? Where is your supervision?" "I'm right here," I said, my voice shaking with barely controlled rage. "I'm her mother, and Emma has every right to be in this pool." The woman turned to me, her eyes scanning me up and down with unconcealed disdain. "I am Patricia Whitmore, president of the Riverside Estates HOA, and I'm telling you that your daughter cannot use this pool without proper supervision and without following proper protocol." "I can see her from my kitchen window," I replied, forcing myself to stay calm. "She's never more than 50 feet from me." "And what protocol?" "And she's been swimming here every day for 2 months." Patricia's lips curled into a smile that had no warmth in it. "Well, that ends today. I've received complaints from other residents. They're concerned about safety. About liability. Your daughter's condition poses a risk. The way she said condition made my skin crawl, like Emma was a problem to be managed rather than a child to be cherished. My daughter's cerebral palsy doesn't make her a risk, I said. Was my voice rising despite my best efforts? She's an excellent swimmer. She's careful. She's... Nevertheless, Patricia interrupted, effective immediately. She is banned from this pool. If I see her in this water again, I'll call the police for trespassing. Do you understand? Emma was crying now. Soft, heartbroken sobs that tore through me like knives. You can't do this, I whispered. I just did, Patricia said. She pulled out her phone and snapped a photo of Emma in the pool. For documentation purposes. Now get her out, or I make the call right now. I helped Emma out of the pool, wrapped her in her favorite towel, the one with little dolphins on it, and carried her inside while Patricia watched with those cold, satisfied eyes. Emma cried herself to sleep that night, and I made a decision. Some battles are worth fighting. Some wars demand to be won. Patricia Whitmore had no idea what she'd just started. The next morning, I woke up with a purpose. David had already left for work, and Emma was still sleeping, exhausted from yesterday's trauma. I sat at our kitchen table with a cup of coffee that went cold while I made my plan. First, I retrieved the documents Mr. Henderson had given us. I read every single page 3 times, making notes, highlighting sections. Then I made some calls. My first call was to Jennifer Martinez, a real estate attorney who'd helped us with our closing. Jennifer, I need you to verify something for me. And then I might need your help with something bigger. My second call was to Mark Chen, a civil rights lawyer I'd met at one of Emma's therapy sessions. His daughter had Down syndrome, and we'd bonded over the unique challenges our families faced. Mark, hypothetically, if someone discriminated against a disabled child in a public accommodation, what would that look like legally? Sarah, he said carefully, are you asking hypothetically? Or did something happen to Emma? I told him everything. When I finished, there was a long silence. Sarah, they can't do this. Not legally, not morally, not in any universe. But before we go nuclear, let me ask you something. Do you want justice or do you want revenge? I want my daughter to swim in peace, I said. Whatever that takes. Then let's be smart about this. Document everything. Record everything. And don't show your hand until the moment is right. Over the next week, as Patricia Whitmore revealed herself to be even worse than I'd imagined, she sent certified letters to our home, 3 of them, threatening legal action if Emma entered the pool. She posted in the neighborhood Facebook group about safety concerns and liability issues without naming Emma directly, but everyone knew. The community split. Some families supported us publicly. The Johnsons, the Patels, the Rodriguezes, they all spoke up. But others, led by Patricia's inner circle, been whispered behind their hands. I heard the words special needs and insurance risk and property values floating through conversations that stopped when I walked by. Emma asked me every day, Mommy, why can't I swim anymore? What did I do wrong? Each time my heart broke a little more. You didn't do anything wrong, sweetheart. Nothing at all. Meanwhile, I was building my case. Jennifer confirmed everything in the Henderson documents. Mark researched the disability discrimination angles. Oh, and I did something Patricia Whitmore never expected. I requested a formal HOA meeting to address the pool issue. The meeting was scheduled for June 28th, 2 weeks after the confrontation. Patricia sent out an agenda that included discussion of pool safety protocols and restricted access policies. She thought she was going to win. She thought she was going to codify Emma's exclusion into official HOA policy. She had no idea I'd invited guests. And the meeting was held in the community center at 7 p.m. When I walked in with David and Emma, the room was already full. Patricia sat at the front table with 4 other board members, looking smug and prepared. She'd printed out packets. She'd prepared a PowerPoint presentation. She'd even brought a pool safety expert, some guy in a cheap suit who clearly owed her a favor. I took my seat in the front row. Emma sat beside me, nervous but brave. David held my hand. As Patricia called the meeting to order and launched into her presentation, 15 minutes of statistics about pool accidents, liability concerns, insurance requirements. Then came the proposal, a new policy requiring special accommodations for residents with disabilities, which included mandatory one-on-one supervision by a certified lifeguard, advance reservation requirements, and restricted hours. It was discrimination wrapped in bureaucratic language. And it was designed specifically to make swimming so difficult for Emma that we'd give up. When Patricia finished, she looked directly at me with that same cold smile. "Mrs. Mitchell, would you like to respond?" I stood up. My legs were shaking, but my voice was steady. "Yes, Patricia, I would." I pulled out my phone and connected it to the room's projection system. The first image that appeared was the property deed, with the relevant sections highlighted in bright yellow. "This," I said, "is the deed to our property at 1247 Riverside Drive. As you can see on page 4, section 12, paragraph 3, the pool area is not community property. It is private property. Our property." The room went silent. Patricia's face went from smug to confused to pale in about 3 seconds. When the Hendersons developed this community 20 years ago, they retained ownership of the pool while allowing the HOA to manage it for community use. Well, we inherited that ownership when we purchased their home. The pool you all enjoy, it's on our land. The deed is crystal clear. I clicked to the next slide, a survey map showing our property lines extending to include the entire pool area. Now, I continued, for 2 decades, the Hendersons generously allowed this community to use their pool. They never made an issue of ownership. They wanted everyone to enjoy it. And when we moved here, yes, we intended to continue that tradition. Patricia found her voice. "This is ridiculous. You can't just—" "I'm not finished," I said firmly. The room was so quiet you could hear people breathing. I clicked to a new slide. It was a screenshot of the neighborhood Facebook post Patricia had made, the one talking about safety concerns and liability issues. 2 weeks ago, the HOA president banned my 12-year-old daughter from swimming in our pool, not because she broke any rules. It's not because she was unsafe, but because she has cerebral palsy. That's called discrimination, Patricia, and it's illegal under the Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. I looked around the room. Some people were nodding. Others looked shocked. Patricia looked like she was about to be sick. "But here's what's going to happen instead of a lawsuit," I said. "Effective immediately, the pool policies remain exactly as they were. Emma, and every other child in this community, swims freely, safely, and without discrimination. The HOA continues to manage the pool, but on our terms that include zero tolerance for discrimination of any kind." I clicked to my final slide. It was a photo of Emma in the pool, taken the day before Patricia banned her. Sure. She was laughing, her arms spread wide, pure joy on her face. "Or," I said quietly, "we can go another route. I can revoke the community's access to our pool entirely. It's our property, our right. We can build a fence tomorrow, and this becomes a private pool for our family only. Is that what you want?" The room erupted. People were talking over each other, some angry at Patricia, some shocked by the revelation, some clearly afraid they were about to lose pool access entirely. Patricia stood up, her face red. "This is absurd. You can't just—" "Actually," came a voice from the back of the room, "she absolutely can." Everyone turned. And Mark Chen walked down the aisle in his perfectly tailored suit, carrying a briefcase. Behind him was Jennifer Martinez. Behind her was someone I hadn't expected. Mr. Henderson himself, walking slowly with a cane but with fire in his eyes. "I'm Mark Chen, Mrs. Mitchell's attorney," Mark said, "and I'm here to confirm that everything Mrs. Mitchell said is legally accurate. The pool is her property. The HOA's continued use of it is at her discretion. And Ms. Yet Whitmore's actions over the past 2 weeks constitute clear disability discrimination." Mr. Henderson stepped forward. "Patricia, when my wife and I donated use of that pool, we did it with one condition, that it would be a place of joy for everyone in this community. Everyone. What you did to this little girl, it's a disgrace. And if the HOA doesn't fix this immediately, I'll personally support the Mitchells in revoking your access entirely." Patricia Whitmore resigned that night. But the HOA issued a formal apology. They created a new policy, a real one, protecting against discrimination and ensuring equal access for all residents. But the best moment came 3 days later. I was in the kitchen when I heard splashing and laughter. I looked out the window to see Emma in the pool, surrounded by 8 other neighborhood kids. They were playing Marco Polo, and Emma was it, spinning in circles, laughing so hard I could hear it through the glass. And Sibi. So Patricia Whitmore moved out of Riverside Estates 6 weeks later. I heard she joined a different HOA in the next town over. I wonder if they know what they're getting. As for us, Emma swims every day. And our pool? It's not just our property on a deed anymore. It's the heart of a community that learned a very important lesson. Kindness isn't just the right thing to do. Sometimes it's the only thing that matters. They say, what goes around comes around. But sometimes, karma doesn't need to come around at all. Sometimes it's been there all along, just waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. And for Emma, that moment tasted like chlorine, victory, and pure, unfiltered joy.